Welcome to the X Global News Channel. The town of Bakhmut in eastern Ukraine has been in the international spotlight after reports surfaced that Ukrainian forces had launched an offensive on the town. This has sparked a heated debate about the circumstances surrounding the attack and the potential implications for the region. In this blog, we will look at recent developments in Bakhmut and assess what this could mean for the future of the city and Ukraine as a whole. In early December 2022, Ukrainian forces launched an offensive against the town of Bakhmut in the Donetsk region of eastern Ukraine. The battle is considered one of the most important in modern Ukrainian history because it marked the beginning of a new phase in the ongoing war between the Ukrainian government and pro-Russian separatists. The attack began with a series of heavy artillery attacks by Ukrainian troops on the outskirts of the city. The shelling was followed by infantry attacks as Ukrainian forces attempted to gain control of the city. After several days of fighting, the Ukrainian army managed to take control of Bakhmut and consolidate its position. The battle for Bakhmut had not only military but also political significance. The Ukrainian government viewed the battle as a symbol of its desire to reclaim breakaway regions of Donbass from the Russian separatists. It also served as an example to other cities in the region that resistance to the Ukrainian government would not be tolerated. Despite the success of Ukrainian forces in capturing Bakhmut, they have not been able to hold it for long. Over the past few years, pro-Russian forces have repeatedly launched counterattacks on the city, resulting in a stalemate in which neither side has been able to make significant gains. Local humanitarian organizations are struggling to help the population, although resources are limited and not commensurate with the scale of destruction. Many families still live in temporary shelters or have been displaced from their homes. In addition, reports of human rights violations in the region, including extrajudicial killings, torture, and other violations of international law, have increased since the battle. The victory in Bakhmut was widely hailed as a major success for the Ukrainian government. It is seen as a sign that the Ukrainian military is capable of effectively fighting Russian-backed separatists in the region, which is seen as key to preserving the country's sovereignty. However, not everyone agrees with this assessment. Critics point out that the battle was largely symbolic and had no real impact on the long-term balance of power in the region. They also point out that Ukrainian forces had significant support from the U.S., which provided air support and other assistance to the Ukrainian military during the battle. The victory in Bakhmut also underscores the deepening divisions between Ukrainians and Russians in the region. Many residents of Bakhmut and surrounding areas are ethnically Russian, making it difficult for them to accept the presence of the Ukrainian military in their city. The battle has also caused a rift between those who support the Ukrainian government and those who view it as the aggressor. Ultimately, the Bakhmut battle serves as a reminder of the ongoing tensions between Ukraine and Russia, and the risks associated with escalating violence. While the Ukrainian government may celebrate its victory, it must also be aware that further conflict could be extremely costly and have devastating consequences for all parties involved. The war between Ukraine and Russia has been ongoing since 2014 and has had devastating consequences for both countries. Although the war has not officially been declared over, there is hope for Ukraine's future. Many wonder how long it will take Ukraine to recover from the war and rebuild its economy, infrastructure, and political system. The war between Russia and Ukraine has been devastating for both countries. In Ukraine, it caused tremendous economic disruption and hardship. It is estimated that the war resulted in a loss of about 10% of Ukraine's gross domestic product. This is due to a number of factors, including destruction of infrastructure, loss of investment, disruption of trade and transportation. The conflict also increased unemployment and poverty rates. Some 8 million Ukrainians have been displaced by the violence, and many of those who remain are in dire economic straits. The World Bank estimates that about 4 million Ukrainians now live in poverty. This is in addition to the more than 1 million people who are internally displaced within the country. The conflict has also had a detrimental effect on the economy due to lack of access to foreign markets and devaluation of the Ukrainian currency. As a result, the Ukrainian economy is estimated to have contracted by about 17% since 2014. More than 1.5 million people have been displaced by fighting in eastern Ukraine, leaving them in desperate need of food, water, and medical care. Many of these refugees have been forced to seek refuge in other parts of the country, where resources are already scarce and tensions are high. The conflict has also caused widespread destruction of infrastructure, including roads, bridges, water supplies and communication networks. This further disrupted the provision of basic services such as electricity and healthcare, and worsened the living conditions of those affected by the conflict. The economic damage has been particularly severe. Since 2014, the war has cost Ukraine $35 billion in lost GDP. It led to a sharp decline in living standards for many Ukrainians, with more than 4 million people now living in poverty. The war between Russia and Ukraine began in 2014 when Russian troops annexed the Crimean Peninsula, triggering a conflict that lasted more than 5 years. Since then, tensions between the two countries have remained high. In 2020, the Minsk agreements were signed in an attempt to establish a truce, but they were only partially successful. On the Ukrainian side, the war has had a significant impact on the political landscape of the country. The conflict has exacerbated deep divisions between different ethnic and linguistic groups, while political rivalries between different factions have also intensified. The most obvious manifestation of these tensions has been the emergence of far-right and ultra-nationalist groups opposed to any compromise with Russia. These groups often use violence to achieve their goals and thus pose a serious problem for the government in Kiev. In recent years, Ukraine has made some progress in terms of stabilizing the economy and improving relations with other countries, but the long-term effects of the war will be felt for years to come. Only time will tell if Ukraine can fully recover from the conflict and move toward lasting peace and stability. The future of Ukraine's recovery from the war with Russia remains uncertain, but the government is taking steps to try to move the country forward. In the short term, the government is pursuing reforms in areas such as the banking sector, the energy sector and land reform. These reforms are aimed at creating a stable economic environment that can promote economic growth in the country. At the same time, the Ukrainian government is working to resolve the dispute with Russia over Crimea. A diplomatic solution is preferred, but so far there has been no real progress in finding a peaceful solution. It is still unclear whether a solution will be reached in the near future. Regarding the humanitarian crisis, both international organizations and the Ukrainian government are making efforts to alleviate the suffering. Humanitarian aid has been delivered to those affected by the conflict, and initiatives have been taken to rebuild houses and other infrastructure destroyed in the fighting. Politically, Ukraine has made some progress in fighting corruption, although much remains to be done. The government is also working to strengthen ties with Europe and the West, including the signing of a free trade agreement with the European Union. Ultimately, it is difficult to predict exactly how long it will take Ukraine to fully recover from the war with Russia. It will depend on a number of factors, including economic growth, conflict resolution and progress in fighting corruption. In any case, it will obviously be some time before Ukraine is back on its feet. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to keep up with new videos. Also, please like us and write your opinion in the comments. Thank you for watching us.